This is Claire McMillan, and I'm reading from my first novel, Gilded Age. I thought I'd read something about Cleveland. My novel is about a woman who is a native Clevelander. She's been away in New York, and she's come back to Cleveland to start her second act in life. So I thought I'd read a little something about that. Now, you might be wondering why Ellie even came back to Cleveland. It took me a while to convince Jim he wanted to move back here with me. And Ellie, she was used to New York, so why not try Boston or Chicago? Hell, even Los Angeles, if she was feeling like really starting over. The thing is, there's something about being raised in Cleveland that draws you back. Everyone I know in Cleveland went away to college, found a spouse, maybe lived in a larger city for a while, but eventually they moved home. They chose to come back. When you do, it's because you've lived anonymously long enough. You want to come back to the place where people know you and your mother and your grandmother and probably even your great-grandmother. Where people are still house proud and throw dinner parties. Where the gray lake shocks in the winter with its cover of ice and shocks again in the summer with its tropical blue. Where you can get your child into one of the swanky preschools without college-level stress. Where you can find the best of anything you need. A doctor, certainly. Hairdresser, psychotherapist, acupuncturist, artisanal baker. It's just that Cleveland has one or two of each, not a full page in the phone book like Manhattan has. But really, how many do you need? It's an ideal place for nesting. You return because 100 years ago, Cleveland's iron and steel barons built the Neoclassical Art Museum, and John Severance built his wedding tribute of a concert hall. The Terminal Tower, formerly the tallest building outside New York, still looks proud. You return because the brownfields are slowly being turned into urban gardens, and Tremont hasn't lost its bohemian blue-collar vibe despite being overrun with luxury SUVs on the weekends as suburbanites jockey to eat at the trendy restaurants. You love the Ritz's sushi happy hour. I wouldn't eat the walleye. That's just me. Let's not get crazy. You love the huge white windmill that churns next to Brown Stadium, right on the edge of Lake Erie, not far from the closed steel mills. It's Cleveland's beacon to those who want to move forward, to change. And why wouldn't Ellie, in her present state, want to come back and absorb a little of that energy? This is Claire McMillan reading from my second novel, The Necklace. The Necklace takes place in dual time frames. Half of the book takes place in 1920 and half the book takes place in contemporary times. I thought I'd read from the beginning of the book, from the first chapter, which is set in contemporary Cleveland. Before it all begins, Nell looks up at the arched gables, hesitates at the heavy front door. Everything here is a test. No Quincy, not even a peripheral one, knocks unless she aggressively wants to announce herself. A true Quincy would bound in, secure in her welcome, but Nell creaks open the door and silently slips through like an intruder. Lighted by the wavy, leaded glass windows, a taxidermy antelope head gazes down with hazy glass eyes. An Indian black buck. She thinks someone told her this as a child. The ears show patches as if something's been nibbling them. Bits of fur and dust fuzz the floor beneath it. A time-warp feeling settles over Nell like weather. She sneezes. Her cousin Pansy looks over from the living room and mouths Gesundheit and turns back to the small group of women Nell should recognize but doesn't, no doubt in conference over last-minute details for Lulu's wake tomorrow. What does one call Quincy's in multiple? A clutch? That's eggs. A murder? That's crows. A judgment? That's perfect. A judgment of Quincy's brings to mind her ancestor Increase Quincy and his infamous verdicts at Salem, and makes her wonder if judgment is encoded in the Quincy double helix. She feels an arm around her waist and a kiss on her cheek. Nell Bell, her cousin Emerson, Pansy's younger brother, is Nell's age and adheres to the male Quincy uniform of dark suit and tie. Despite this, he's rumpled. His tie, with a pattern of tiny clocks, is fraying at the wide end. He smells like he's been here for at least a few old granddads. Hey, she gives his waist an extra squeeze and lets it go that he knows she hates that nickname. She hasn't seen him in years. Then again, a few years is not particularly long between her and the Quincy's. Her parents preferred living in Oregon, where they'd met and where Nell lives now. They'd put a country between themselves and the Quincy's, reflexively sizing them up. Despite this removal, Nell's mother would insist they make a pilgrimage here most summers. She'd instruct Nell for the length of the car ride from the airport to use her best manners. Please, thank you, pass the hors d'oeuvres before taking one for yourself. She'd turn fully in her seat, lean over the armrest, and inspect Nell's fingernails for dirt while her father drove. A transformation would come over her parents here. Her mother would become brittle, short with everyone, even Nell's father, whom she adored. Her usually witty and erudite father would go silent. They both drink bourbon at lunch, something Nell never saw them do anywhere else. And Aunt Lulu, as her mother called her, would lead everyone into that big dining room table for luncheon. She'd seat herself at the head of a table that gleamed with silver and yellowing brocade and proceed to dominate the conversation with the self-assurance of a favorite child who had never been told to shut up.